Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited. I'm seeing you a little bit frozen, Dr. Kimberly. Are you okay? Are you frozen on your end? Feel free to hop off if you need to, and then you can hop back on. Let me go ahead. Hi, everyone. I'm going to add Miss Kimberly as soon as she's able to hop back on. There might have been a slight glitch, but I am excited about today's episode. It's my 43rd episode of JHC and Friends, and I am really excited about having Dr. Kimberly Moore on for today's episode. We've got probably I'm getting close to 50 episodes, including my other series and Filipino Hustle Fridays. So we're on track to try to hit our goal of 100 episodes, hopefully by the end of the year or early January. And we'll see how it goes. And I have Miss Kimberly, Dr. Kimberly Moore. Thank you so much.
You are welcome.
You know, with technology, it's unpredictable.
You know what? And so is life. So it's a great thing to happen because I think it's a great segue into our conversation today.
Absolutely. And for those of you who don't know, I've met Dr. Kimberly. I mean, if you're okay with me calling you Kim, of course you are.
You absolutely can. We're friends. Absolutely.
Yeah, and she's been a leader, a true leader in our community in Tallahassee, Florida. And she recently moved to Arizona to join Yavapai College. And you are like killing it. You are just on fire. She she is a Chief Workforce Innovation Officer at Yavapai College, and she was a business professor at Tallahassee Community College, graduated with a doctorate degree in education at FSU in 2022. And I am just blown away by how much you are getting so much done just by watching you on LinkedIn and also hearing you. For those of you who might not know, she's been on radio as well. So just a true leader in the Tallahassee community, and crazy that we lost you recently. But I'm happy to have you on live. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. No, you know what? Florida and certainly Tallahassee will never lose me. I will always be a Florida girl and just excited about the work that we were able to do there. And honestly, just excited too about, I call it the 3.0 chapter of what's next.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about your journey. Maybe just what inspired you to get a PhD, like and your field. Tell us a little bit more about your story.
So great. Thank you, one, again, for having me. But, my story, like a lot of people, it starts early on. I remember, being the 14-year-old, growing up in a small community of 800 people and thinking, man, what I'd really like to do, because I was an avid reader, but what I'd really like to do and be when I grow up is be a CEO. I wanted to become a CEO. And though I, didn't necessarily have anyone in my path that had held that position, I really did believe that that was a dream that was going to hold me and take me to whatever that next stop was. But it wasn't until my senior year of high school, and Dr. Laura Young, Miss Young for English, or my English teacher, and she talked to me about, we had this assignment of tell me what you want to do when you graduate. And I was like, so I put, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to come back and, work in government. And she brought me up to her desk and she said, is that really what you want to do? You have great grades. And she's like, tell me, what do you want to do? And I said, I wanted to be a CEO. And I said it with the probably most quiet voice. I'm not even sure she could have even heard it, but she did. And she said, well, go back to your desk and write that. And I call that the permission to dream moment, because everything around that, because someone believed that the dream that I held could become a reality. So that's what I set about doing. So, of course, fast forward, got my bachelor's degree, got into workforce development as my second job, became Florida's youngest CEO to hold that economic and workforce development spot. And for our community, first woman and first person of color. And then, of course, at that point, wanted to figure out how do you use that connection to workforce and business and look at it from a different perspective. I always heard employers say, what if we could just get the people out of the school that were trained in the way that I needed them to be trained? And I thought, how else to figure that out than to go into education? So that became my 2.0, where I became TCC's, Tallahassee Community College's first woman and a person of color to hold that vice president for workforce development position, which later transitioned to the vice president for workforce innovation. And then lo and behold, 3.0, I become Yavapai College's Chief Workforce Innovation Officer. So an interesting path, not one that I would have predicted, but certainly one that I'm proud of and with the impact that we've been able to make in different communities.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up because I mentioned the professor side, but yes, your whole role, your big role with VP, of course, at the Innovation Center. So you had a lot of experience with getting a lot of things done here, including finding support, doing workforce development, being out in the community. There's so much work to be done. And so now going into a brand new community, what has that experience been like? And I know you mentioned you wanted to also discuss networking, how impactful it is. How has it been like with the transition there?
It's actually been great. It's been great from the perspective of listening to what the community views is very important to them. It's also been important from the perspective of just recognizing the value and importance of getting out, whether it's a new community or an existing community where you just had the light bulb go off and say, hey, I want to be engaged. It has gone wonderfully. The community has been welcoming at all levels, state, regional, and local. So I could not ask for a smoother transition.
Wow, we've got quite a few on watching right now. Your audio is going through, but sometimes I don't know why you're frozen on my end, but keep talking. And so I know you're used to even audio broadcasts. So tell us also more about what you're hoping to do over there. You made a huge impact here. And so I was just wondering, what do you want to do with your role over there in Arizona at Yavapai College?
So I am super excited, again, to be in an inaugural role. When you think about, Chief Workforce Innovation Officer, it's something that I absolutely enjoy, the idea of creating at a college where there's a desire to go to that next level. We really, I call it the perfect marriage because, I'm excited about the 3.0 for me as well as excited about the 3.0 for our college. I think, the biggest piece for me is to stand up a division, and this division of workforce innovation and economic development that didn't exist, really to think about all the important aspects that, it's not just something for me, but it will be something that goes beyond and really, I call it, provides the support that the community needs, but also play a big role for our state here in Arizona of, what it means to be a rural college, but a major contributor in developing talent and supporting business.
It's really interesting when you said you wanted to be a CEO, and you said you didn't even realize your path would lead you this way. And do you feel like you've made more impact in what you've, in your position that you were fulfilling over here in Tallahassee versus being a CEO? You obviously made history.
So the great thing about that, and I'm glad that you pointed that out. So I did in my first, I call it my first professional job in leadership, I did make it from temporary OPS worker to CEO. I became Florida's youngest CEO to hold that workforce development and economic development spot. So in my mind, I completed that 1.0. I did that. I did what the 14-year-old said she wanted to do. And so since that time, of course, Tallahassee Community College and the work that we did there, the whole idea of moving from one industry and going into a second, and at the same high level of driving not only local but state, that's the 2.0. And now to be able to transition and use that same energy and build on what you've learned to move into a 3.0 of possibilities of things that don't even exist. And I think to me, it speaks to the power of not only believing in self, but also the importance of investing in learning throughout, because I get to use all the skills from the very beginning, even my days of working my way through college at McDonald's as a manager. I mean, you get to use all those skills throughout, and that it really does set you up for what your future will be.
Wonderful. I'm wondering if you don't mind, because I want people to see you talking. Let's see if it'll give us it's funny because when we had our warm up earlier, it didn't have any issues. She didn't freeze. So if you don't mind just hopping back on, and then I'll just, thank you. And then, if anyone has questions, I see there's like several people online. I would love to hear some questions. Anyone who has any leadership questions, because thank you. Awesome. Yes, I'm not sure what's causing it. But technology, yes.
Yes.
So you were like involved with innovation for several, was that kind of like an accident, or is that something that you were totally interested in and being involved? And so obviously you love it. You're still part of innovation over there.
So I love possibilities. I mean, what I've always done, whether it was in workforce development or economic development, it's about the possibilities. That's what you're conveying to community, to job seekers, to students. And so in order to do that, for me, it was from the vantage point that I have to be an innovator. So literally probably about 7-8 years ago, as we all do in our careers, and for those of you that are listening or watching, if you haven't thought about it, I'd encourage you to how do you reimagine yourself? How do you take what you've done and then figure out that next step? So for me, the reimagining became, I wanted to do and be much more than workforce development. I said, there is another piece of it. So I reimagined, literally went full force into this work about creating things that don't exist. It's great to replicate. I get it. Great to do things that other folks have done, but it is even better to set the standard and of what can be, and to create that picture and know that you're starting from a blank slate. So yes, that was absolutely intentional about how I reimagine what my future could be, and how others, whether it's communities and even the other work that I've done statewide and nationally, it's about encouraging, giving people the focus and idea of, you know what, it doesn't have to be how it's been traditionally. You can write that next best chapter.
Wow, that's so inspiring. And you really inspire a lot of young people. And so being part of the college scene and everything too, I guess the other thing too is because there's so much happening with education, with online education, university systems and everything like that. I guess I'm just wondering, like, what are some other things down the pipeline that you're allowed to announce? There's some events coming up we can share, Here. There's a Prescott Valley Job Fair.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing, oh, hi, Alyssa. I remember hearing you talk on the radio about like job opportunities, job fairs. You've been involved in so many things, workforce development, innovation, and it's just like how do you do it all? How do you balance it all?
Everything. I always look look for connections. So in my mind, I always look for opportunities to connect the dots. So I think about who are all my audiences, who are all the people that are counting on me and the work that we're doing, whether it's employers, whether it's community, whether it's job seekers, whether it's, students who are still in high school or parents. I really try and take all of that into account. And when you do, you end up with so much variety because you're wanting to speak to people where they are. And the whole idea is that if you can connect with where they are, you can help take them to where they want to be. So that's why I involve myself so heavily. So I think there's never a question, whether it's a job that I've held or a board that I've served on, that you're not getting 110% about what it is and what it means to do and give, so that you really reach and achieve the impact that you like to achieve.
Yeah, you were on. I felt like every time I turned around, I was like, oh, she's on that board too. That's what I mean. It's like you served on multiple boards effectively. There's people who are on the board roster, and then there's the people who actually serve and do get stuff done. And you are really one who gets stuff done. And so Yavapai made a great decision getting you. And so, and talk a little bit more about, I really wonder though, when you were younger, considering your future, did you ever think you would accomplish this much already at this point in your life? I mean, being a CEO is already a huge accomplishment. So,
I'm very thankful.
That confident.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for the many, many experiences and the people that stopped along the way to invest in this kid from the small town, Greenville, Florida, 800 plus people, and saw something in me that at some point I did not see, and that now I get to share and see in other people. For me, it's always been about what's next. So some people have heard me say I don't hang on to any trophies, any awards that I get. I give them all, every last one of them, to my mom. They are hers, because I wanted to know how much it has meant to me to invest in me and to encourage me and my dreaming piece, that there are no limits on what you can accomplish. So I literally hand it off as soon as I take the picture with it, and I'm on to the next. And it's, again, not because I'm not thankful. I just recognize that the gift and talent and the opportunity that I've been given is not just for me. It really is to make sure that the door gets open and open wide for the next woman, the next person of color, whatever that case may be. When you start thinking about first, that people will see and appreciate and see it from a different perspective. Because again, when you think about workforce development and economic development, it is oftentimes not a woman, and it's oftentimes not a person of color. The fact that each of the roles that I've had have all been where I've been the first, that's something that, again, that I don't champion for myself. I champion for the next person that I'd love to follow behind me. So thank you for that. But that's just kind of how I viewed it. I've not thought that there were limits. I never believed that there are limits. So, I mean, who knows where, Kim's 4.0, 5.0 will take her. I just literally operate with 110% in the moment that I'm in, and doing the best job that I can possibly do for the people that I'm tasked with serving.
That's wonderful. And because I feel like I'm already starting to think about like a lot more questions to follow up. But I remember you said networking is very essential, right, to get a lot done. And so, speaking of networking, for anyone who wants to connect, like LinkedIn, people follow. She's got a lot of connections.
Yeah, I am all over that. I mean, LinkedIn, such a powerful tool. I think about the number of boards. I think about the number of presentations that I've been asked to do, all by virtue of, having a live and engaging on LinkedIn. So certainly would encourage that. But I also encourage people, because we oftentimes get used to having in our network the people that are at the same place and spot as we are, the people that you're most comfortable with. So you don't have to feel vulnerable, I tell you to challenge yourself and be uncomfortable. So going into the room, identifying folks that you don't know and going directly and sparking up that conversation, it will pay dividends. And I promise you, whether you're in Arizona like me or you're in some other state or wherever that may be, it will not be a hard task to connect and find points of like interest. Look for that. Yeah, don't run from it.
You have no fear. You mentioned confidence too is very important. And then that's the thing with younger people. It's hard nowadays, especially to be social, and it's just like with social media and everything, it's like a replacement for being social in real life. And so how would you, if you were to recommend to someone who might be more quiet or timid, but they want to get to where you are, how would you encourage them to get to that place?
Certainly, I will tell you, and this is probably interesting, like people are probably listening or watching and are saying, I can't believe it, you were ever shy. That was probably the least thing that I wanted to do. I wanted to be a CEO, but I wanted to be a CEO that never had to go to a mic. And I'm not sure how that works, but I'm like, okay, how do I do this? And I literally made sure, and I continue, I make sure that I am putting myself in situations where you have to be spot on. And part of being spot on and preparing for that is just the level of preparation that goes that you have got to own not only the room, but the information that you're sharing. So it requires that you be not a great study at the work that you're talking about, that you're carrying out. I think the other part of it is, start where you're comfortable, whether it's a club or a group that you're a part of, or maybe it's, a board that you're on, be the first one, raise your hand to report out on a committee. It's safe, or, be the next one to talk about, maybe it's a workshop, maybe you're not the keynote, but you start off with the workshop. I mean, it really is the building blocks for that. And then soon you will recognize, just like I did, you're like, man, I know that everybody seems to hate it, but it's such a powerful place and space to be in because everybody's listening to what you know. They want to know more about that. And in order to do that, you got to come across confident and add to the confidence, passion. To be very passionate and passionate, but also genuine in the sense that you can be okay with being vulnerable that, hey, I don't get it right 100% of the time, but that's okay because I know I'm working on it the 99% of the time to get there. So yeah, not a problem.
I love that. I never would have guessed you were shy. It's funny how yeah. And then even for me, I was like that too. It's just putting yourself out there, getting used to it, talking to people. It's like a muscle you have to exercise and you get used to it, right?
Totally.
And to respect your time, because I know we started earlier because we were like, she's ready to go, let's go. I wanted to give you more time too, like if there's anything that you wanted to conclude with, what would you love to say, and they always ask those questions like, what would you tell your 20-year-old self, or what what would you, yeah.
So when I think about it, to steal a line, because, Beyonce continues to do it, but there's an important line that she offers, a quote, and I truly believe it. And it is about betting on yourself. If you're going to bet on anybody, bet on yourself and do that every day. That does not mean that you're aimlessly going out there and not being prepared. It is being prepared to be 100% consistently your very best. And so I would remind the audience and our listeners and viewers to do just that. Don't, for whatever reason, choose not to take that chance on yourself. That really focus on what the possibilities could be, not where you're comfortable in being, but what you really want to do next. And when you do that, you really can live a life without limits. And folks, people will appreciate that. They will appreciate that passion and they'll want more of that. And I promise you will end up being in a better place.
Well, thank you so much, Kim, for hopping on. And for those of you who are interested, please follow her journey. She shares a lot of great, valuable information on LinkedIn, so you can definitely try to pretty much just follow her on LinkedIn. And Yeah, thanks for taking the time out of your really, really busy schedule to hop on and on my little humble show to talk a
No,
little bit
it's
about
a
your story.
great show that's providing a great access point for folks to learn more, to be more, and thank you for your leadership on that. And I would not have missed it for the world.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to see what you do over there. I'm just following. I see your posts all the time. So, yeah, keep doing what you're doing. I wish you all the success over there and come visit us in Tallahassee.
We'll do that. We'll do that. I will not be a stranger. See you soon.
Thank you. I'll see you on the other side.